My name is Daniel. I'm 58 years old, and 3 days after my stepdaughter gave me a birthday gift, the police walk her out of my house in handcuffs. I wish I could say this story has a simple explanation, that there was a misunderstanding, that everything worked out in the end. But no, what started as a quiet birthday dinner turned into the most terrifying, humiliating, and heartbreaking week of my life. A week that made me question whether the people closest to me ever loved me at all. A week that forced me to choose between staying silent or destroying my own family to save myself. And the worst part? I didn't see any of it coming. Not the gift, not the lie, not the betrayal, and definitely not the police. So let me take you back to the beginning. I turned 58 on a Tuesday. Nothing special about that day. No big party planned. No surprise trip. Just a small dinner at home. The kind of birthday you get when you're older and life is settled into routine. I live in a modest suburban house. Nothing fancy. Paid off the mortgage years ago. I work as an accountant for a mid-sized logistics company. Quiet life. Predictable. Safe. Or at least I thought it was. I've been married to my wife, Karen, for 12 years. She has a daughter from her previous marriage, Emily. Emily is 24 now. Smart. Ambitious. Beautiful in that effortless way young people are. The kind of person who walks into a room and naturally becomes the center of it. When Karen and I got married, Emily was 12. I never tried to replace her father. He was still in her life. I just tried to be steady, reliable, the man who showed up, who paid for braces, who drove her to school when Karen was sick, who attended every recital, every graduation, every awkward parent-teacher meeting. She called me Dan, never Dad, but I was okay with that. I thought we had a good relationship. I was wrong. On my birthday evening, Karen cooked my favorite meal, roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans. Simple comfort food. Emily showed up just before dinner with a gift bag in her hand and a bright smile. "Happy birthday, Dan," she said, hugging me. I remember thinking how nice it was that she even came. Young adults get busy. They forget things. I didn't hold that against her. We sat down. We ate. We laughed. We talked about her job hunt, about my work, about nothing important at all. Normal. After dinner, Emily handed me the gift bag. "Open it," she said. Inside was a small box. Wireless earbuds. Not cheap ones either. One of those premium brands everyone raves about. I raised an eyebrow. "These are expensive, Em." She shrugged. "Consider it a thank you. For everything." I smiled. I even felt a little emotional. Maybe I had underestimated how much she appreciated me. I hugged her again. "Thank you," I said. "Really?" She smiled back. But there was something in her eyes. Not warmth. Not affection. Something else. Something I didn't recognize at the time. The rest of the night passed quietly. Emily left. Karen and I cleaned up. We watched television. We went to bed. I put the earbuds on my nightstand. A simple gift. Innocent. Harmless. That's what I thought. The next morning, I took them to work. During lunch, I paired them with my phone. They worked perfectly. Clear sound. No issues. I even texted Emily. "Thanks again for the earbuds. They're great." She replied almost instantly. "Glad you like them." Nothing strange. Nothing suspicious. Just a polite response. Day 2 after my birthday was uneventful. Work. Home. Dinner. Sleep. But that night, Karen said something odd. "Did Emily text you today?" I looked up. "No." "What?" "She hasn't replied to me all day." "That's unusual." We shrugged it off. Young people get busy, I thought. Again, I didn't see the warning signs. Then came day 3. I will never forget that morning. I was drinking coffee at the kitchen table when someone knocked at the door. Not a casual knock. Firm. Official. Karen opened it. 2 police officers stood there. And behind them, Emily. Her eyes were red. Her hands were trembling. And she wouldn't look at me. One officer asked calmly, "Sir, may we come in?" Karen stepped aside, confused. I stood up slowly, my heart suddenly pounding for no clear reason. "What's going on?" I asked. Emily still wouldn't look at me. Then the officer spoke words that made my blood turn cold. "Sir, we are investigating a report of illegal surveillance and invasion of privacy." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" He continued. "Your stepdaughter has reported that you have been secretly recording her." For a moment, I thought it was a joke, a mistake, a misunderstanding. but no one was laughing. Emily started crying. Karen looked at me like she had never seen me before, and the officer raised his hand gently. "Sir, we're going to need you to step aside while we ask a few questions." I stood there, in my own kitchen, on the third day after my birthday, staring at my stepdaughter, and realizing my life was about to shatter. For a moment, no one moved. The ticking clock above the fridge suddenly sounded unbearably loud. My coffee sat untouched in my hand, growing cold. Emily's breathing was shaky. Karen's fingers gripped the doorframe so tightly her knuckles turned white. And I just stared at the police officers, trying to process the words I had just heard. Secretly recording her? I shook my head slowly. "That's impossible," I said. "I would never." The officer raised his palm gently. Not aggressively, not accusingly, just firm. "Sir, we need you to remain calm. This is a serious allegation." Karen finally spoke. "Emily," she whispered, "what is this? What are you saying?" Emily's voice came out small, broken. "He gave me a phone last week," she said. "He said it was for emergencies. But I found hidden apps on it. Recording apps. And then I saw the earbuds he got for his birthday. The same brand. I looked it up. They can connect remotely. He could listen to me. Watch me." Her words fell like stones, each one heavier than the last. Karen turned toward me, slowly, carefully, as if I were a stranger who had suddenly appeared in her house. "Daniel," she said, "did you give Emily a phone?" I swallowed. "Yes," I said. "But Karen, it was just an old spare phone. Her old one was cracked." "I told you that." Karen frowned, searching her memory. "You said you were helping her set something up. I didn't know you gave her a phone." I exhaled sharply. It was nothing secret. I bought a cheap replacement screen. That's all. But Emily shook her head violently. "No," she said. "You didn't just fix it. The phone had apps I didn't install. And when I Googled them, they were surveillance tools." The officers exchanged a glance. One of them spoke. "Sir, do you own any devices capable of remote monitoring? Laptops, tablets, spare phones?" I looked at them in disbelief. "You think I'm spying on her?" I said. "She's my stepdaughter. I've known her since she was 12. Why would I?" My voice cracked. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. They weren't here to ask questions. They were here because they already believed her. The officer continued calmly. "We'd like to ask you to step outside while we speak with your wife and stepdaughter privately." Karen looked torn. Emily looked terrified. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Helpless. I nodded slowly and walked onto the porch. The morning air was cold. My slippers were thin. The world felt suddenly unreal. I could hear muffled voices inside. My wife. My stepdaughter. The police. Talking about me. As if I weren't even a person anymore. Just a suspect. After 10 minutes, one officer stepped outside. "Sir," he said, "we need to examine your electronic devices. This is standard procedure." I stared at him. "You're taking my computers?" He nodded. "If you cooperate, this will go much smoother." I had done nothing wrong. Nothing. So I agreed. I handed over my phone, my laptop, even a spare tablet in the drawer. Karen watched silently from the doorway, her arms wrapped around herself. She didn't say a word to defend me. Not one. Then the officer turned toward Emily. "Miss, we need you to come with us to the station to file a full statement." Emily nodded weakly. As she walked past me, I finally caught her eyes. And there was again that same look I noticed on my birthday. Not warmth, not love, something else. Cold, calculating, gone in a blink. She walked out between the officers. Karen didn't stop her, didn't ask questions, didn't ask for proof. She just watched. And then she looked at me. "Daniel," she said quietly, "if any of this is true." Her voice trailed off. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. When the police car drove away with Emily inside, I stood on the porch. Alone. Without my devices. Without my voice. Without my family's trust. And on the kitchen table behind me, the earbuds sat exactly where I had left them. Small. Silent. Innocent looking. That afternoon, Karen packed a bag. "I need space," she said. "I'm going to stay at my sister's." I tried to stop her. "Karen, please. You know me. You know I would never." She pulled away. "I don't know anything right now," she said. "I need time." The door closed behind her. And suddenly, the house felt larger than ever. Empty. echoing. I sat at the kitchen table for hours, staring at those earbuds, trying to understand how a simple birthday gift had led to this nightmare. Then something strange happened. My old landline phone rang. No one ever called that number. I picked it up. Hello. Silence. Then a click. The line went dead. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about Emily, about the phone, about the apps she claimed to find, about the earbuds, and a question began to form in my mind. A question that scared me more than the police ever could. If I didn't spy on her, then who did? The next morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through the blinds. For a brief second, I forgot everything. Then reality slammed back in. No karin, no phone, no laptop, no sense of safety. Just me, an empty house, and the echo of yesterday's accusation. I made coffee, out of habit more than desire. My hand shook so badly I spilled some on the counter. I kept replaying Emily's words. He'd been EPS, recording tools. He could listen to me. It made no sense. I had never installed anything like that. I barely knew how half the apps on my phone worked. So how did those apps get on that phone? And why was she so sure I was behind it? Around noon, someone knocked at the door again. My heart stopped. But this time, it wasn't the police. It was Mark, my co-worker, the only friend I really had outside my family. He held a paper bag. I brought sandwiches, he said. You didn't show up at work. I got worried. I let him in. He looked around at the empty house, the half-packed boxes by the door. What happened, he asked. So I told him. Everything. The birthday, the earbuds, the police, the accusation. By the end, he just sat there, silent. Then he said something that made my stomach twist. Dan, what if someone did install those apps? I laughed bitterly. Are you saying I'm guilty too? He shook his head quickly. No, I'm saying, if Emily is telling the truth about the phone, then something illegal happened. But it might not have been you. I stared at him. Who else had access to that phone? I opened my mouth, then closed it, because suddenly I realized the answer. 2 weeks before my birthday, Karen had asked me to fix Emily's old phone. I don't understand these things, Karen had said. Can you take a look at it? Maybe you can get it working again. I remembered sitting at the kitchen table, replacing the cracked screen, transferring data. But I also remembered something else. Karen's nephew, Tyler, had been visiting that weekend. Tyler, 19, studying computer science, always bragging about ethical hacking, always glued to his laptop. At one point, I had left the room to answer the door, and Tyler had stayed alone at the table. With the phone, I felt a cold thread crawl up my spine. Mark leaned forward. Did anyone else touch that phone? He asked. I nodded slowly. Karen's nephew, I said. But he's family. Why would he? Then another memory hit me. Emily had rejected Tyler last summer. He had asked her out. She had laughed it off, called him like a little brother. He had never mentioned it again. But I remember the look on his face that day. Embarrassment, anger, something dark. Mark exhaled slowly. Dan, he said, you need a lawyer. Now. I rubbed my temples. I don't even have my phone. Mark slid his across the table. Use mine. I call a local attorney. Her name was Ms. Ramirez. She listened, calm, focused. When I finished, she said something that sent a chill through me. Mr. Miller, accusations involving illegal surveillance of a young woman are taken very seriously. Even if you are innocent, this could destroy your reputation permanently. We need to act fast. I swallowed. What do I do? First, she said, do not contact your stepdaughter directly. Do not contact the police on your own. And do not try to investigate this yourself. I almost laughed. Too late. Because I already knew. If I didn't find the truth, no one else would. That night, I did something I never thought I would do. I drove to Karen's sister's house. Not to see Karen. To see Tyler. The house was quiet when I arrived. I parked down the street. Walked up slowly. My heart hammered in my chest. Lights were on in the upstairs bedroom. I knew it was Tyler's room. I rang the doorbell. Karen's sister opened the door, surprised. Daniel, what are you doing here? I need to speak to Tyler, I said. Alone. She hesitated, then stepped aside. Tyler appeared at the top of the stairs. Lazy smile. Earbuds in his ears. The same brand. The same model. As my birthday gift. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then I said quietly, Tyler, what did you put on Emily's phone? His smile didn't fade, but his eyes changed. Sharp, alert, dangerous. Tyler took one earbud out slowly. Not surprised, not confused, as if he had been expecting this moment. Uncle Dan, he said casually, you look stressed. I stepped closer to the doorway. Answer my question, I said. What did you install on Emily's phone? Karen's sister stood frozen behind me. She could sense something was wrong, but didn't dare interrupt. Tyler leaned against the stair railing. You really think I did something? He asked. Wow, that's kind of offensive. I stared at him. You were alone with that phone, I said. Emily found surveillance apps, and now the police think I'm spying on her. So yes, Tyler, I think you did something. For the first time, his mask slipped. Just for a second. A twitch in his jaw. A tightening around his eyes. Then he smirked. Even if I did, he said, you have no proof. Karen's sister gasped quietly. I felt my blood run cold. So you admit it? I said. Tyler laughed. I didn't admit anything, he replied. I just said even if. Hypothetical. He stepped down the stairs slowly. Calculated. Confident. He stopped one step above me. Besides, he whispered, why would anyone believe you? A 58-year-old man accused of spying on a young woman? Or a 19-year-old student with a clean record? I couldn't breathe. Because he was right. Karen's sister finally spoke. Tyler, what did you do? He turned to her, smile gone. Nothing, he said. And if anyone asks, that's what you're going to say too. She stepped back instinctively. Tyler walked past me and out the front door like nothing had happened. Earbuds back in his ears. Music playing. Calm. Untouchable. I stood there shaking. Karen's sister closed the door slowly. I don't understand, she whispered. Why would he do that? I looked at her. Ask him who bought those earbuds, I said. Her eyes widened. I drove home in silence. Darkness had fallen. Street lights blurred through the windshield. I knew two things now. First, Tyler had done this. Second, no one would believe me without proof. And the police already had my devices. My reputation was already crumbling. My marriage was already cracking. If I did nothing, I would lose everything. When I got home, I noticed something strange. The front door was unlocked. I always lock it. Always. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. I stepped inside quietly. The house was dark, silent. Then I heard it. A faint electronic beep. Coming from the kitchen. I moved slowly, carefully. And there, on the kitchen table, next to the birthday earbuds, was my old tablet, the one I had given to the police. But this one was different. Smaller. Thinner. Not mine. A device I had never seen before. Screen glowing. A blinking red dot. Recording. Someone was still watching me. In my house. Right now. For a moment, I couldn't move. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure the device could pick it up. The red dot blinked steadily. Recording. Watching. Listening. Inside my own home. I reached toward it, then stopped. If I touched it, I might destroy evidence. If I left it, whoever planted it could still hear me. So I did the only thing I could think of. I turned off every light in the house and stood in the darkness, breathing, thinking, planning. After a few minutes, I grabbed a kitchen towel, wrapped it around the device, and carried it carefully into the garage. I put it inside a metal toolbox and closed the lid. Silence. Then I sat on the concrete floor, back against the wall, trying to steady my shaking hands. Someone had broken into my house, planted a recording device. After the police had already taken my electronics. After I had been accused. This wasn't just a family misunderstanding anymore. This was a crime, and I knew exactly who was behind it. I waited until morning. Then I drove straight to Ms. Ramirez's office. She listened without interrupting as I told her everything. Tyler, the confrontation, the smirk, the device in my kitchen. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Mr. Miller, she said quietly, do you still have that device? I nodded. In my garage. Her eyes sharpened. Do not touch it again. We're going to call the police together. And this time, you will be the one filing a report. 2 hours later, detectives were in my house. Real detectives, not uniformed officers. They photographed everything. Collected the device. Dusting for fingerprints. One of them looked at me. If what you're saying is true, he said, then someone attempted to frame you. That is extremely serious. I almost laughed. Attempted? They had already destroyed my family. That afternoon, Karen finally called. Her voice was hesitant. Daniel, the police contacted me. They said there's been a development, that they need Emily to come in again. I closed my eyes. Karen, I said, listen to me. I never spied on your daughter. Someone else did, and I think you know who. She was silent. Then, quietly, Tyler. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. 2 days passed. 2 long, unbearable days. I didn't sleep, didn't eat, just waited for the call that would decide my future. On the 3rd day, Ms. Ramirez called me into her office. When I walked in, 2 detectives were already there, and between them, Emily, her eyes red, face pale, hands trembling. She sat down across from me. For the first time since the accusation, she looked directly at me, and I saw something new in her expression. Fear, guilt, understanding. One detective spoke. Miss Carter, please tell Mr. Miller what you told us earlier today. Emily swallowed hard. I was wrong, she said. Her voice cracked. I thought it was him. I thought he put those apps on my phone. I was scared. I didn't know who else could have done it. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But they traced the remote access, she whispered. It wasn't coming from his devices. It was coming from Tyler's laptop. The room spun. All the air left my lungs at once. I looked down at my hands. 58 years old, trembling like a child. Emily continued. He admitted it. He said he just wanted to keep an eye on me, that it was supposed to be harmless. But then when I found the apps, he panicked. He told me it must have been Dan. That older men do weird things. That no one would believe me if I said he did it. She broke down. I'm so sorry, she cried. I destroyed your life. For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, I looked at her. Emily, I said quietly, why didn't you come to me first? She shook her head. I didn't know who to trust, she whispered. And he was family. I never thought. Her voice faded. One detective stood. Tyler was arrested this morning, he said. Possession of illegal surveillance software. Breaking and entering. Attempted obstruction of justice. And false accusation leading to an innocent suspect being investigated. I blinked slowly. He's in custody? The detective nodded. Yes. And Miss Carter has withdrawn her statement against you. You are fully cleared. Cleared. Such a simple word. For a nightmare that almost ruined everything. Emily stood up. I'll understand if you never want to see me again, she said. But I needed you to know the truth. She left the room. Ms. Ramirez shook my hand. The detectives left. And I sat there. Alone. Again. But this time, with the truth finally in the open. Yet as I drove home, one thought wouldn't leave my mind. Tyler hadn't just installed apps. He had broken into my house. He had planted a device. He had tried to frame me. This wasn't a stupid mistake. This was something darker. Something planned. Something personal. And I still didn't know why. The house felt different when I got home. Not empty anymore. Just scarred. Like a place where something terrible had happened and left its shadow behind. I sat at the kitchen table. The same table where we'd eaten my birthday dinner. Where I'd opened the earbuds. Where my life had quietly started to fall apart. I stared at the chair where Emily had sat. At the spot where the recording device had been. And for the first time since all this began, I allowed myself to feel anger. Not panic. Not fear. Anger. That night, Karen called again. Her voice was softer now. Careful. Daniel, can I come by tomorrow? We need to talk. I knew what she wanted. Apologies. Explanations. Tears. But part of me wondered if it was too late. Still, I agreed. The next afternoon, Karen stood at my door. No suitcase this time. Just tired eyes and hands twisting together. I should have believed you, she said immediately. I didn't even ask for proof. I just panicked. I let her in. We sat at the table. The same table. So did I said. But I never once thought you'd take their side without hearing mine. She winced. You're right, she whispered. And I don't know if you can forgive me. But I'm here to try. We talked for hours. About trust. About fear. About how easy it is to believe the worst when someone you love is crying in front of you. By evening, we were exhausted. Not healed, but honest. And that was a start. A week later, the court proceedings began. I didn't want to attend, but Ms. Ramirez insisted. If you want your name truly cleared, she said, you need to be seen. You need to be present. You need to look the world in the eye. So I went. Tyler sat at the defendant's table. No smirk this time. No Earbuds. No confidence. Just a young man staring at his hands. His lawyer spoke about immaturity. Poor judgment. A crush gone too far. But then the prosecutor laid out the evidence. The apps. The remote access logs. The planted device in my house. The messages where he told Emily to blame me. Every word hit like a hammer. When the judge asked if he wanted to speak, Tyler stood. He looked at me, not with defiance, but with something else. Resentment. You took everything from me, he said quietly. You took my family's respect. You took her away from me. You had a perfect life. I just wanted something of my own. A murmur moved through the courtroom. I stared back, and for the first time, I understood. This was never about love. It was about control. The judge sentenced him. Community service, probation, mandatory psychological treatment, and a permanent restraining order. Not prison, but enough to mark his future forever. Enough to warn him, and anyone like him, that what he did was not a prank, not a mistake, a crime. Outside the courthouse, Emily waited. She looked nervous when she saw me, but she stepped forward. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, she said, but I want to earn it. If you let me. I looked at her, the girl I'd helped raise, the one who had almost destroyed me, the one who had also been a victim. And I sighed. Start by coming to dinner next Sunday, I said. No phones, no secrets, just food. She smiled through tears. I'll be there. Karen squeezed my hand, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't pull away. A month later, on a quiet evening, I sat in the backyard, coffee in hand, birds settling in the trees, peace returning slowly, carefully, like a wounded animal learning it was safe again. I took out the earbuds, the original gift, the ones that had started everything. I held them for a long moment, then walked to the trash bin and dropped them in. Some gifts aren't meant to be kept. Some stories aren't meant to be forgotten. And some lessons come at a price no one expects to pay. My name is Daniel. I'm 58 years old. And this is the story of how a simple birthday gift revealed the darkest side of someone I once called family.